Well, welcome everyone. I hope you're all here. I am Deborah Simpson. I am the Executive Director of Speakers Guild USA, and you're here for 5 visibility secrets to fill your speaking calendar. In Speakers Guild USA, our members are business owners and they use speaking as a way to market their business. So I invite you to check out our membership over at speakersguildusa.com. I'm thrilled to have one of the Speaker Guild members with me tonight. I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Bethany Sunny. Bethany is a speaker, author, and marketing coach with over 25 years of business experience. She shows motivated entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, and service providers how to become more visible so they can easily get more clients, make more money, and become more visible and grow their business fast. Bethany is here today to share with us, as I said, the 5 visibility secrets to fill your speaking calendar. Bethany, welcome to Speakers Guild USA monthly meetup. It's great to have you here. I'm so thrilled.
I am so happy to be here, and I'm getting feedback. Are you?
No, I'm not, but I'm going to turn off my webcam right now, and I will be quiet.
Okay. All right, I think that's a little bit better. That's what was doing it. Well, thank you so much for having me, Deborah. I am so excited. I absolutely love the Speakers Guild, and it is just a fabulous place to be able to find speaking engagements and learn and be able to connect with other speakers. It's just fabulous. So thank you, and thank you so much for having me here. I also want to thank everyone who is listening and part of this webinar, whether you're here this evening or listening to the replay. I want to thank you so much for coming, and I want you to congratulate yourself for taking the time to do this, because I can tell you're motivated, you want to do more, and you want to learn more, and you want to be the best you can be by showing up at important webinars that Deborah and others present here through the Speakers Guild USA. So let me tell you just briefly about myself. When I was young and all my friends were playing with Barbie dolls, and we were in Arizona, we played Cowboys and Indians, and we ran around and did like kids did back then. You ran around and play a lot. Well, my absolute favorite thing to do was to set up a school environment with a chalkboard and teach my friends. Now, I have no idea at all what I taught them, but the really cool thing was that they kept coming back. So I guess I did something right, but I just absolutely love training, although I knew that I never wanted to be a teacher. So in the 80s, I got that corporate bug, and I wanted to just climb that corporate ladder, do business travel, break that glass ceiling, all that exciting stuff of being a corporate. And I ended up working for Hughes Aircraft. And the job I ended up with was being a liaison between the programming staff and the human resources department to be able to launch a very huge new program for the human resources. And as the project kind of wound down and was ready to go, I was part of the team that worked on creating the training manual that would then go to the human resources department so they would know how to use this wonderful system we spent 3 years making. And once we did the training manual and they were ready to send everything out to human resources, I was asked to be the trainer that went around and trained all of their human resource departments. So right then, I beautifully stepped back into training, and the love of what I did as a child ended up being my love again as an adult. And I enjoyed going out and training them. But as many of us know, in the late 80s, large corporations were having tons of layoffs, and it was just so hard. Every day you'd walk into work and there was, this dark cloud over us, and, who would be next and who would be on the next round. And of course, one day I walked in and it was my turn. I was handed the proverbial pink slip and told that I was being laid off. Now, I had some warning that I was going to be part of the next round of layoffs. And when I received the notice, I was really, really shocked how devastated I was. I knew it was coming, or potentially coming, and I was shocked how devastated I was. So I was single and needed a job, and so I realized I could take my love of training and combine it with, Bill Gates' desire to have computers on everybody's desk. At that time, the computers were starting to appear on people's desks, and the employees would walk in and not have a clue on how to use it. That was the time when we thought a mouse was still either a cute character of Disney or a mouse that we didn't want running around our house. But they quickly found out that through computer training and employers bringing in trainers to train their employees on using the computers, that the mouse was meant for much more. So I went out and quickly talked to some training companies and was able to start training employees on how to use computers at large corporations. I had the pleasure of teaching at Nestle and at Disney and JPL and many, many large companies to the smaller companies. And one thing I found as I was training is that since we only keep 25, if we're lucky, 25% of what we learn, when the employees were going back to their office, they could not remember everything they were trained on that day. And for many of them, that meant their jobs, because the employers and their bosses assumed that they knew everything that they needed to do to keep work going. So I stopped training and I created a computer training manual that was good for the classroom, but also a reference guide back at the desk. And this was revolutionary for that time. No one had done that before. And so I suddenly realized that I was a business owner as I wrote and published computer training manuals. And as the business continued to grow and moved from my little condo to an office, I had the privilege of having employees and learning inventory and sales and all those hats that you use. And that business I had for 17 years. And I really enjoyed it. But after 17 years, I realized that the industry was changing. It was going to online. And I didn't want to continue with the business and being online. That was something that really wasn't a good direction. So I closed the company. And since then, I have had the pleasure of owning and creating and owning several companies. And now I have over 25 years of business experience. And as people would come to me and ask for advice and information, I suddenly realized I absolutely loved giving back and sharing my knowledge and experiences and the bumps in the road and all the things that business owners go through. I enjoy helping others and giving back for small business owners that are working at growing their business. So I now work with motivated entrepreneurs and speakers and coaches and service providers on how they can use technology and allow themselves to become visible so that they can get more clients and grow their business fast, because that's what we all want, so it can include the lifestyle that you prefer, which is different for everybody. So today, I want to talk to you about 5 visibility secrets to filling your speaking calendar. If you are not visible, you are not going to get the calls, invitations, or opportunities to speak like we all want to do. Now, I'm going to go rather fast. This goes back to my love of teaching, and on webinars, I feel that teaching works very well. Since you don't see me, it's a little different as you also will speak for webinars. It's a little bit different dynamic, and speaking to your screen and not seeing people is definitely different. So the first thing I want to do is ask you a question. Do you want to know how event planners, what their top priority is when selecting a speaker? If you're able to go in chat, you can go ahead and put yes there. So if you could go into the mind of an event planner and you want to know what their top priority is when they're working on selecting a speaker, I'm going to tell you. In a recent poll, 93% of the people that were in the poll that selected speakers said that the first and most important thing is the relevance to their audience. So I would have thought a few other things, but it makes sense. They are looking for someone that will provide the information that their audience that's going to attend the event needs to hear. Now, here's a couple other fun items. How would you like to know how they find speakers? Well, obviously, if you're listening to this, of course you want to know how they find you. 72% said they find their speakers from colleagues, whether they're actually working in an office with them or they're part of a same association or they connect with different people in that same industry on social media. It's always word of mouth is always supreme. 65%, though, said that they find people from events they have attended. Now, the interesting thing is, it's not always just the speakers on stage. Oftentimes in conferences, you're able to have time to meet other people and build friendships and relationships with people that you didn't know before. And not only do they find people from the people speaking at the events, but they also find other speakers that attend the events. So I'm sure you want to know, how specifically can they find me? So let's dive in. The first thing I want you to do, and if you have a piece of paper and pen, feel free to take notes. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in on the chat or the questions area. So the first thing you need to do is determine your goal. You need to know why you have chosen to speak. So many people are speaking because they want to use it as a lead generation. It is one of the best ways to easily and quickly generate leads. So you can decide to do speaking simply for lead generation. You might be speaking just because you have chosen speaking as your profession and you want to make money through speaking. So in this case, you are specifically looking for paying gigs. And as you might have found out, that in this current time, paying gigs are getting less and less, and many people are either paying to be on somebody's stage or speaking for free. So there's a lot of different choices of how you want to do your money making as you get paid for speaking. You also might want to speak because you're an author and want to sell a book. And so you want to go on a speaking tour, letting people know that you have a book and to increase sales. The other reason, you might have a program, whether it's online or mastermind or whatever you have for sale. You might go out and speak to be able to sell your programs. There are many, many other reasons you might be speaking. These are just the most common. So number one is truly determine your goal. Now, if you are taking notes, I encourage you to just quickly write down what comes to your mind first on why you speak. The second is to identify your best audience. Now remember, if the most important thing for people that are picking and choosing speakers for an event, if the most important thing to them is that you match their audience, it's really a win-win situation when you first know your best audience. So for example, if you are doing speaking for lead generation, if you don't identify your best audience, you will end up going out and either just speaking for fun and wondering why you're not getting any business from it, or you might end up speaking somewhere and since it's not your best audience, you totally don't mesh with them. Deborah, we can hear you. So you don't want to get a reputation of being a terrible speaker, not because you don't know how to speak, but because you've actually put yourself in front of an audience that doesn't care about what you're speaking about. So I spend a lot of time coaching and training on target market. I know that you probably have also heard an awful lot about creating your avatar or your perfect audience or your target market or your ideal client. Whatever you have heard of those, I am sure that you have sat down and spent some time really looking at who you love to work with, how that fits with your expertise, and the people that you enjoy selling to, and the people that it fits. Your product or service is a perfect fit for them. Now, the hardest part ends up being when you have to narrow that niche. Now, there's a saying that's very popular that says the riches are in the niches. And I will tell you, I have seen it over and over and over again. It is so true. Let me dive into this just a little bit, because a lot of times when you narrow your niche, you feel like you're excluding people that your product or service could be good for. Believe me, if you are doing a good job being visible, all the others will still come. But you want to narrow your niche to who you enjoy attracting the most and want to help the most, so that you can speak their language. Many products and services, you would talk differently if you were talking to women versus men. Skincare is a perfect example of that. You would talk about the benefits of skincare very different to a young woman with kids versus a woman who is heading into retirement, maybe a baby boomer. That whole message would be completely different. What happens when you don't narrow your niche is that the message that you are sending out actually doesn't really fit any of your clients. Because as you begin talking, let's say to everyone who can use skincare, for example, if you're talking to everyone, they say you're talking to no one, which means you're being too broad. And when you're being too broad, you're not hitting their pain points. You're not hitting the reason they would buy from you. So I really encourage you to take a look at your ideal client and begin narrowing it down to who you love to work with and who you want to speak to and help their pain points the most. When you're talking about speaking, you want to be very specific. So, for example, when you have your titles of your speech, when you talk to people about the fact that you are speaking and that you are a speaker, to be able to tell them the specific type of people you're looking for or the specific speeches that you want to give, if you're specific, it allows them to click in their brain faster. If you simply say, I'm a speaker and I'm looking for speaking engagements, people typically go, oh, that's nice. Well, I'll keep an ear out for that. But if you said, I am a speaker and I'm speaking specifically to commercial investors who look for investments of $2 million and above, how much more does that paint a picture in your mind of who they want as their audience and who they could speak for? So not just know your target market, narrow down your niche, then be specific when you're talking about being able to get speaking engagements. I'm going to use an example of a very good friend of mine, Leanne, who, thank you, Leanne, I noticed you're also on this webinar. She recently did a workshop, and she is wonderful at being very specific on the audience that she wants to speak to. Oops, going backwards and not meaning to, sorry. So the workshop she recently did was called The Proper Care and Feeding of Mom and Dad, Keeping Seniors Safe and Caregivers Sane. Very, very specific. So she knows that the people that are going to attend are looking for this information. And she did this workshop on her own, but if she, let's say someone in the audience said, wow, that was an amazing workshop. Can you please give it to, and let's say they were part of a large conference, and suddenly you'd be a speaker on their breakout session, or you might end up being a keynote speaker as you continue to build that relationship. Being very specific allows you to get more speaking engagements than not. The next I want you to do, number 3, is to do your research. Now, if you're like me, you say research and I go running. I literally do not like doing research. However, thankfully, we don't have to spend tons of time in the library anymore. We now have the internet to do research. So let's talk about a little bit about research. The first thing you want to do is you want to start creating a list, because as you're researching, you're going to find wonderful places that you can speak at. You're going to find contacts. You want to have this list somewhere that you keep going through and revamping and taking a look at where you might want to speak next. So the types of things you want to put on the list, and I recommend you do it as like an Excel sheet or a Google Docs or Evernote, something that you're going to be able to constantly, easily be able to update. Because you might get home from a conference and have a lot of information that you can fill in here that you can use later. So you want to put down the event, the link to where that information is if you have found them online. If it's a convention, the dates for the next convention. And then any contact information you can find. And in the contact, I would encourage you to put any type of way of contacting them in this list. So you want the person, if you know their title or what they do. And then you also want to put down their email address or website for that particular contact, and phone number, if you can find that. And then I have found it is very helpful to know how you found this person. It's great in conversation. It's great to jog your memory. And you can easily go back once you start filling this out. If you have kind of, let's say, a dry spell, you need to get out speaking and something has gotten you off track from continually marketing yourself and you want to get out there again, this allows you to easily know where to start. The other thing that it allows you to do is be on track for a lot of the large conventions. If you're wanting to be part of a industry convention, for example, you will often miss the year that you're researching them. They've already got all their speakers and so forth. But if the minute you can put down the dates for the next year, then you will be able to put another column here of when you need to touch base with somebody or fill out the application or send your speaker information and bio to them. So creating a list keeps you organized and also keeps you energized because you can see that there's places that you can quickly contact. If you're looking at a conference, research the past conference. Most of the time you can see conference information from previous conferences. So when you're researching past conferences, you're looking, and we'll go into this in a little more detail in a few minutes, but you're trying to absorb all of the information you can about the conference that would help to know, first of all, how you would fit into the conference. Remember, you want to always match their needs and connect with the audience. So the first thing is, do they have workshops or speaker invites that fit what you speak on? And you can also find out their demographics and contact person and all sorts of information from that. You can also look at, as I mentioned, the topics that were presented. Sometimes you will look at different topics and realize that there's a big hole that you know that same demographic would really want to know about, and they didn't have that topic listed. It might be a topic they were looking for someone to present and they couldn't find the person yet, or they might want it for the next year. And as I mentioned, you want to look at what their demographics are. For example, if you have a service or a product that is meant for a new mom, then you wouldn't want to find out that the conference you're looking to go to has 75% men and 25% women. That doesn't match what you're looking for. So even though your topic might resonate in that particular conference, if you are looking for business and for leads, that is not a perfect fit for you in order to get more business. The next is, thankfully, we have social media. This is the best time to do marketing. It has never been so inexpensive. It has never been so readily available. And I have to admit, it has never been more confusing. With social media, it can be so confusing how to use it, how to capitalize on it. And so I'm going to spend some time about social media and how this can help you be more visible. First thing you want to do is look for your industry's influencers. As you're looking, as a speaker, let's say you want to be a paid speaker, your first thought might go to someone like Tony Robbins. However, you can find information about him and even read some information on how he got his big breaks or how he was doing things. But if you're just starting out, or you're kind of maybe 5 years into speaking, the type of conferences and things that you're looking for may not be someone like a Tony Robbins level of conference. You want to look for industry influencers they're kind of at your same level or above you in their progress in speaking. Think about it when you are working as an athlete and you want to get better. Let's say you're playing tennis and you want to get better. Playing someone that plays worse than you usually brings your level down. You're always encouraged, in that case, you want to find somebody that is a better player than you, but you're not necessarily looking for someone that just won the World Cup. You want to look for someone that is ahead of you so that you can reach for that area and open more doors if you're looking for your industry influencers at places you want to speak. In social media, you will find people that fits that description, and then you wonder, then what do I do? When you find somebody that you want to learn from, you feel is meeting the same demographics and industry as you are, and they're an influencer, meaning they have more followers, more interaction on social media than you do, then you want to start getting in their vision. So one way to do it is you can comment on their posts. What I encourage you to do when you comment is to sound intelligent. You don't want to sound like a stalker. So your comments can be on the post, how did it resonate with you? Or was it an aha moment? Or how they said something that really showed that they know their stuff. You want to make a comment that they want to read, that makes them realize you're intelligent and that you're not just a stalker. When you kind of think about celebrities, if you're trying to reach out to a celebrity, you don't want to look like just someone that's constantly following them along and gets all excited and faints if they see you. You want to be able, your goal is to connect with that influencer. The next is that you can repost their articles or repost relevant posts of theirs. And when you do this, you always want to tag them or indicate somehow that they can see that you have reposted it. It used to be that we needed to go back onto their articles or onto their blogs and let them know or send an email, hi, I've just reposted your article in my blog. Now with social media, you're able to actually tag them and let them know other ways that you have reposted their articles or their posts. Also, when you're looking at these influencers on social media, you want to find out where they're speaking. Couple reasons. You want to find out where they're speaking so possibly you can attend. That's the more obvious one. But you can look at where they're speaking, look at the demographics, look at the titles of their talk that they're doing. This might also be places that you would be able to speak out also, because if you're working with that influencer, you definitely want to be working with someone that is meeting the same demographic audience that you would want to meet. So finding out where they're speaking might open up opportunities for you, as well as you can learn a lot about the types of topics that demographic wants to hear about. And you want to notice the topics of their speeches, of course, as I mentioned. I want to talk even deeper with social media. I have a program that I am offering on how to conquer social media overwhelm, because as I coach and teach, I see so many people that are going so many different directions and overwhelmed, and they don't know what they should do on social media and what platform they should use. And many are trying to do 5 different platforms. And so it becomes so overwhelming and takes far too much time. So the first thing you want to do is identify your ideal social media platform. Now, when you identify your social media platform, what you're looking for is, again, goes back to your target market, narrowing your niche, and then you're looking for the platforms where your ideal clients live. If you are in business, let's say you do leadership training, and a lot of your speaking is to corporate environments. In that case, LinkedIn will probably be your best way of connecting and finding more business and more speaking opportunities. Some people, it is Facebook. Now, you can have more than one. I just encourage you not to have 5. Excuse me. So, for example, you might have most of your people that you would sell to and market to be on Facebook. But because you're a speaker, most of your speaking engagements might be from LinkedIn. In that case, you can write articles and blogs and different things and post them on both and connect with them on both of those social medias. As larger corporations are buying social media platforms, like Microsoft buying LinkedIn and Facebook buying Instagram, it's actually making it a whole lot easier to begin working with multiple platforms. But if you're on a platform and your ideal clients are not there, you are simply wasting your time. And you can do a simple search, Google search, and put in, let's say, Facebook statistics or Facebook demographics, whatever the social media platform is, and it will tell you who is using it and all sorts of wonderful information about their age, the age that's there, how often they go, what time of day they will go on it. It gives you a ton of information. So definitely identify your social media platform. And this is very important when you're wanting to look for influencers, because you want to look for them on the same platform that you and your clients are on. One of the things, I was at a convention last week, and one of the big discussions at the convention or conference, excuse me, was that the internet is maturing, and the people that are on the internet are maturing. The things that you used to be able to do, you can't really do anymore. So for example, we all know that the hard sale pitch is not working anymore. People don't want to be sold to like that. We love to buy, but we definitely don't like hard sales or to be sold to. Same thing when you're talking about social media. Most of the social media people that really use a platform, they are looking more for a connection, more for a relationship, more for really it's not necessarily a longer sales cycle or buying cycle. It's actually your whole approach and process has changed. So what you want to do in whatever social media platform you use is you want to create a community. By that, I mean, you want to be able to identify the type of people that you want to work with and what meets their needs the best. And you want them to feel like this is a place that they can communicate, they can get help from each other, they can, you might have a community of just really encouraging people. So a lot of what you do might be encouraging them. Going back to my friend Leanne, her perfect community is being able to find a place that caregivers and seniors want information, want support, and especially for the caregivers, they absolutely need a place to help them feel like they're not alone. So when you're looking at creating anything on a social media, you want to think of what community feeling do I want to have? You also want, when you're posting and putting things on social media, you also want to show your brilliance in doing what you love. So what I mean by that is make sure you're providing content and information that really helps build your community, helps set you apart as an expert, and allows you a platform to let people know that you speak. So the fifth one is attend events. You want to be able, my computer's not happy. I might just get to talk through this. Love computers. Okay, so remember when we started, we talked about the ways people find speakers? Remember, one of the ways is to meet people at events. So events that you want to be part of and you want to attend, there we go. You want to go ahead and attend the events that you are hoping to speak at, if at all possible. I understand that sometimes you don't want to fly to Timbuktu to go to an event, but you definitely want to start going into events that will allow you to connect with the conference organizers and allow you to be seen, whether you're speaking or just meeting people. Again, remember, if you have your narrow niche and you're very specific on what you speak on, As you go to these conferences, it's going to be very easy to tell them that you are a speaker and what you speak on. And this allows you to strategically take a look and connect with the organizers and influencers. Now, what I don't mean by this is you're not going to follow them around. You're not going to, when they're in the middle of talking to someone, just try to make yourself known. You don't want to be a pain. They will remember you if you are being very inconvenient for them, or you're not realizing that this is not the time or place to talk about you getting speaking gigs. You want to connect with them on I respect you level. Sometimes you don't get to connect with them at the conference, especially if it's a large conference, but you might be able to write down who they are, get their contact information, and put it on your list. It also allows you to see influencers. Again, it may or may not be people that are speaking. It may be people that you have connected to when you attended the event, and you want to go back and connect with them on social media so you can start building that relationship and commenting on their posts and doing all those things that allow them to see you in a positive light. Let's talk about some ways you can actually do that. After a conference and you've decided who you want to connect to, you can send a post, or whether it be a written letter or a card, or just posting on their whatever social media platform you choose. You can tell them your big aha moments, especially if they're a speaker, or if they've organized the event, and let them know that they really nailed it. They brought in the right speakers to meet the needs of the attendees. So tell them your big aha moments. You can also provide them with a video testimonial. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Think about being an event organizer yourself, and you've had to do all the work and all the finding the right speakers and making sure everything's fine. And you definitely need people to come back to the next event, or to put on their website a video testimonial is amazing. And I'll tell you, and I bet you know, if you have done anything and asked people for testimonials, you think that's going to be easy to get, but it is not. So how wonderful would it be if you had an event and someone sent you a video testimonial that they can use to help market their event again? They will definitely remember you if you do that. If you're not into video testimonials, absolutely send them a written testimonial, and be sure to say that you can use this, because that puts you at a whole new level. So, what is the key to filling your calendar and being visible? I've touched on it quite a bit, but the key is to building relationships. As you build relationships with event organizers, with influencers, with others who speak, and the Speakers Guild USA, along with many other speaking organizations, but Deborah does a wonderful job with this one, providing content and information, and especially wonderful at connecting people through multiple resources that's available. But your key of being visible is definitely building your relationships with the people who can take you to that next level, that can connect you to the speaking engagements. And I'm going to throw in a number 6 just because I think it's a wonderful tip. You want to be able to always tell people you're a speaker, as I mentioned earlier, but you want to do it online also. You can do it online by doing selfies or putting pictures of a conference on social media. You can also tag people when you put your selfies on social media and information on social media. But here's something that a lot of people forget to do. On social media, be sure that after you've spoken somewhere, you post something about, I just spoke at whatever it was. And remember, that can be a webinar, it can be a Facebook Live, like an interview, Facebook Live interview. It could be on a podcast. It could be that maybe you didn't speak, but you submitted an article that they would be interested in. The more people hear I spoke or I'm going to speak or see you at events is a great way to let people know that you're a speaker without having to say I'm a speaker. Obviously, the other is in your networking events, always say I'm looking for speaking engagements. I speak on, or I speak to whatever the groups are and your audience. Also, I want to just tell you that when I was talking about show your brilliance, I also want to highlight, if you love to talk or love to write, some people enjoy doing both. Most people enjoy doing one or the other. If you like to talk, Facebook Lives are, of course, great. But something that is just exploding right now are podcasts. The amount of growth in podcasts being listened to is tremendous. And right now, more men, barely, but more men are listening to podcasts than women. But women listening to podcasts jumped 14% in the last year. It is one of the best ways to market right now is creating a podcast. And if you create a podcast, it can be you just talking each time, or it can be an interview podcast, or it could be a mix of the two. But looking into doing a podcast for more visibility is a huge opportunity right now. Also, asking to be interviewed on other people's podcasts or Facebook Live or wherever, whatever they have available is really huge. And this ties into your connection with influencers. If you can start connecting with an influencer for your expertise, then if they have a podcast, you can ask to be on their podcast. Or if they're looking for interviewers, you can easily mention that you are always looking to be interviewed. And because they've heard of you and you've built a little relationship, they are much more open to having you on their podcast or Facebook Live or whatever. However, if you enjoy writing more, which I think is kind of funny when we're talking about being speakers. However, if you love to write, writing blogs and articles is still huge. It still helps you with SEO, which is the search engine optimization. It still helps you with showing your brilliance. It still helps you in providing other influencers that are looking for articles and blogs. It will again give you an opportunity to get in front of that influencer or conference organizer or people that you want to be in front of. So what I would love for you to do is I would love for you to connect with me on my business page. It is facebook.com/BethanySunny. I am currently ramping up and providing blog posts, more articles, and I will also be doing a very short tips once a week, and those will also be videoed. So you will be able to find a lot of great information, especially on how to become visible. And I have a special opportunity for you. When I create new programs, I do what's called pilot testing. If you're used to programming, it's called beta testing. But I have created a program called Conquer Social Media Overload, Building Your Online Presence Without Wasting Your Time. And I am looking for people who are interested in going through the class with me to be able to give me feedback. You will learn tons. I will learn tons. And in doing so, I provide it at a very low discount. So the program will end up selling for $997. But for people that would like to go with me on this pilot test, it is only $97. So this will be starting in a couple weeks. And the way you find out the information and be able to ask questions or sign up is going to my Facebook page, again, facebook.com/BethanySunny. And you can find out more information about that pilot test. I only take very few people because it is much more of my time and much more access to me as I continue to build this program to be better and better for my tribe, for my community. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. And Deborah, I will turn it back to you. And thank you so much for your time. And Deborah, again, thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thanks for doing it for me, Bethany. I really appreciate it. And it was a wonderful webinar. And I am going to go ahead and close this off since we tend to have a little bit of feedback here with our microphones. I want to thank everybody for attending. As soon as the webinar renders, I will be putting it up over, it will be available to you on the link that you used to come here tonight to be able to see the webinar, but it'll also be up at speakersguildusa.com. So again, thanks, Bethany, for your information. It was really great. You gave some solid information for these speakers to be able to go out, increase their visibility, and find more speaking gigs. So good night, everybody, and have a really wonderful rest of the week.